It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and as you can see, I've gone back to my regular camera angle that I've been using for most of my videos over the last couple of months, and honestly, I just thought it worked better for this particular video series, as well as the other two video series I do, Movie Stop and talking about the movies. Not to say that the thing I bought down in North Carolina hasn't been working. It has done well for me over the last couple of days, and I figure I can use that for something that I'm going to be doing later on down the road this year, so I'm going to save it for that. I'm going to get back to using this camera angle for most of my videos, but you don't want to hear. You're not here for that. You're here to hear me talk about the movies of March 1st, 1996. So we got 4 movies to look at. Let's just get right to it. We're going to start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Robert Redford and Michelle Pfeiffer starring in Up Close and Personal. And let's be honest, you know why this movie has any sort of memorability. It was because of the song Because You Love Me from Celine Dion. I tried to put the commercial in the video, but every time I uploaded the video got blocked, and it was because of that song there. So, the song by Celine Dion was the reason why Up Close and Personal has any memorability to it whatsoever. So, if you want to look for that commercial on there, be my guest. That's why it's popular. So anyway, back to the review. That song is the only relevant thing that ever came out of this particular movie. It was a big hit for Celine Dion. It was nominated for an Oscar for Best Original Song. That song is so important to this movie that they didn't even that was part of their marketing campaign. Sell the song. Don't even bother selling the movie itself because I would say the movie is bad, but I won't go that far. It definitely has a troubled production, to say the least. The screenplay for this actually began as an adaptation of a book about news anchor Jessica Savage and her troubled life and her eventual death in the 80s. This was actually based on an adaptation of that, but the film was heavily altered by the studio. A lot of decisions were made commercially to try to, on the part of the producers, to make it more of a commercial picture. And in fact, the writers of this movie actually later wrote a book about talking about the experience it was having to make this movie called Monster, Living Off the Big Screen, which basically talked about the troubled production of writing this movie. And it's not like the movie is bad or anything. Everyone here is trying their best. Robert Redford and Michelle Pfeiffer are doing the best they can here, but it definitely really does feel like that the movie is just a bland romantic drama that they're trying to sell as kind of an Oscar baitish type of movie. I mean, that trailer alone just filled with so much Oscar baitish type of performances. You see these people just overacting too much, where they're trying their hardest to try to make this work, and it really falls apart. I mean, someone made a good point that it's kind of more like A Star Is Born than it is Network. It's kind of like a mix of Star Is Born meets broadcast news in a way. But it's not. The point of this doesn't really actually amount to anything, honestly. It's a film that really, the effort is clearly there, but there's just nothing there that really makes it worth watching in the end. Plus, honestly, the story that they had originally could have easily made for a more compelling movie. Like, the story behind what happened with Jessica Savage is very intriguing. It's a very interesting story, and I'm hoping that one day somebody actually does a movie about her life, because that's a more engaging story than whatever the hell they were trying to sell in this movie here. Maybe the people who wrote this still have that original script somewhere, or maybe Disney just bought it off of them and just said, you got to do it this way, and it just doesn't work. It's a movie that is so lackluster, it's so boring, it's not a very good romantic drama, but, I mean, despite the best efforts of both Redford and Pfeiffer, it's just a boring movie. It's a movie that tries its hardest to try to get something interesting out of it, but it never really amounts to anything in the end. And really, the original story that they had was so much more compelling and so much more interesting that could have made for a much better movie. But we got this movie, and for what it is, it's just a passable movie. But really, the only memorable thing you're going to take from this is the Celine Dion song, and that's pretty much all you get from it. That's pretty much all I got for you on that one. So that's Up Close and Personal. Let's move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is Kelsey Grammer in the naval comedy Down Periscope. So this is directed by David Ward, who also gave us Major League and King Ralph, and also wrote the scripts for The Sting, which he won an Academy Award for, as well as Sleepless in Seattle. And this was actually the last movie he directed before he eventually went back to just writing and producing movies. But Film was not a big hit critically, but it was a hit financially. And I gotta say, man, this movie is pretty damn funny. It's a really funny movie, and I think it works because of the cast that they assemble here. First off, you got Kelsey Grammer in one of his few leading roles in a comedy. I don't think he'd had any other big ones after this. Like this was right in the middle of his run on Frasier. He comes after Cheers, and this was actually, I believe, the first theatrical release where he had a leading role in it. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I see on Wikipedia here. But he's really good in here playing Thomas Dodge. I mean, he's very funny. He plays the role very well. Has a lot of great funny moments in here. He works off the cast very well here. Great cast overall. You got Lauren Holly in here, Rob Schneider, Bruce Dern, Harry Dean Stanton, William H. Macy, Rip Torn, Kent Hudson Campbell, Toby Huss, Harlan Williams is in here, as you see in there, Patton Oswalt as well. Just a terrific cast in this movie, and they work off each other very well here. Story-wise, we've seen this story done pretty much before. Like, we've seen it done on The Simpsons as well. They made it, at least when they riffed Crimson Tide. And it's basically a comedic version, sort of, of Crimson Tide in a way. But it is still a very funny movie. It doesn't have to be clever by any means necessary, but it's just very funny. Like, it's very funny what they do here. The jokes in here do work very well. There is a lot of stupid comedy, and stupid comedy can be really funny if it's done very well here, and they got the right actors to do it with. The writing overall is very solid. It's a very solid film. It doesn't do anything that is anything groundbreaking or unique, but it does make you laugh a lot. I really laughed a lot with this movie. Thought it was a very fun film overall, and I really recommend it. If you haven't seen this movie, definitely check it out. I think it's one of the more underrated comedies that came out in the 90s. Like, especially since you had some other comedies like this that were set around the Navy and all that stuff. Like, we had McHale's Navy movie that came out the year afterward, which was not very good. And, yeah, it's a pretty funny movie. And I kind of wish Kelsey Grammer got a chance to do more leading roles in movies like this. After this, he was doing more, like, supporting roles in films, which, I mean, it's Kelsey Grammer, man. I mean, the guy could read the phone book, and he could make it so good that you'd have to give him an Emmy for it. Like, it's basically it's similar to Bryan Cranston. Like, anytime Bryan Cranston does anything, you like, here's your award. Go ahead and do whatever you want. Like, that's what Kelsey Grammer was back in the day, and he still is. Like, Kelsey Grammer, man, like, he's an amazing guy. Like, he is really, really damn good as an actor. And I'm not just saying this because I recently got his autograph. I've been saying that for years and years now. So, by the way, if you want to see that video where I got the autograph, check the corner. But anyway, back to the subject at hand here. Down Periscope, pretty funny movie, man. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. So that's Down Periscope. Let's move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is Man of the Year. So obviously this is not the Robin Williams movie that came out 10 years after this by Barry Levinson. No, this is a different kind of Man of the Year. It's a very interesting story when I did the research on this. Apparently, the director of this, and the guy who's the main focus of this, Dirk Schaefer, this is kind of based on his real-life story. He was an American model, actor, screenwriter, and director, but he was most noted in the modeling world for being in Playgirl magazine. He was the 1992 Man of the Year. And Schaefer said that he did Playgirl for validation as a model because he never believed himself to be attractive. And he wrote the story about being a semi-closeted gay man in the world of a heterosexual sex symbol. And his next movie that he did after this, Circuit, basically did a fictional look at the world of gay male circuit parties. So it's a pretty interesting concept for a mockumentary film that they did this. Like, you see a lot of the talk shows in this particular trailer. They have on here Donahue, The Maury Povich Show, Jerry Springer Show. It's a recreation of events like the Playgirl photo shoots, fantasy date with a Playgirl reader, the death of his friend of an AIDS-related illness to relate to the story. It's an interesting concept of a film. I don't really know too much about it. I haven't seen it, obviously, so I can't really go into it as much, but I gotta say, the premise is very intriguing here, and I see a lot of good things about it on these reviews here, so maybe there actually is something kind of amusing about this. It's not something I go rush out to see, but it definitely has some pretty fun ideas to it that probably makes for a very entertaining movie. So that's pretty much all I got on that one. That's Man of the Year. So let's move on to the last movie that we have here, and that is The Neon Bible, starring Jenna Rollins. Unfortunately, that's the only bit of footage I can get there because there was no trailer for it online. What this is a film based off of a novel by John Kennedy Toole. It follows a boy named David, played by Jacob Tierney, who coincidentally Drake Bell plays a 10-year-old version of this kid. Drake Bell, of course, from Drake and Josh. His abusive father, played by Dennis Leary, enlists in the army during World War II and disappears, leaving David to take care of his mother, Diana Scarwood, and his Aunt May, played by Jenna Rollins, who is a singer. And you see Jenna Rollins singing in that. And that's pretty much everything I know about this movie. I really knew nothing about it until I knew that this was going to be one of the movies I was going to look at. So naturally, I haven't seen the film, so I can't really say too much about it. I looked at that little clip there. It's got some potential. I mean, Jenna Rollins, I don't usually hear her sing all that much, so it was interesting to hear her sing there. Dennis Leary usually is a very good actor. That's pretty much all I got for you on this one. I don't really have too much more to go in on that one, but wanted to bring that one up since that was the last film that came out this weekend. So that is the Neon Bible. And so on that note, that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. We've got a lot of movies to look at on the next episode. We've got notable films as well, including Nathan Lane and Robin Williams in the comedy The Birdcage, the American remake of La Cage aux Folles. We also have the sequel to Homeward Bound 2, Lost in San Francisco. Another Hellraiser movie, Hellraiser Bloodline. If Lucy Fell, the Coen Brothers' Fargo, which ended up being one of the best movies of the year, the re-release of Heavy Metal from 1981, The Star Maker, Chungking Express, and also Love Lesson. So 9 movies overall to look at on the next episode. So we're going to be very busy on the next episode, which will be out tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.